In a world ruled by wealth, where money was the ultimate power, this was certainly true for Ava, one of the city's most privileged young women. Genuine trust was a luxury she could not afford. Ava's life was defined by bank balances, expensive treasures, and lavish indulgences. Her grand estate basked in the sun, a beacon of wealth surrounded by technology and luxury. Standing by her bedroom window, Ava, a polished 25-year-old, gazed over her impeccably kept gardens. Her cold, steely eyes mirrored her detached heart as she observed the world around her. Wearing a custom dress worth more than most people earn in a year, Ava casually adjusted the limited edition bracelet on her wrist, a symbol of status, reminding her that time, to her, equaled money. She held an exquisite glass of wine, an accessory just as necessary as the dress itself. Her attention shifted outside, where her maid, Hannah, diligently tended to the rose bushes under the harsh afternoon sun. Hannah embodied everything Ava lacked: humility, genuine happiness, and a satisfaction with her simple life. Hannah was strikingly beautiful, even in her plain clothes, something that quietly irked Ava. At 30, Hannah bore the marks of honest work. Years of dedication and skill made her hands steady and precise, her movements careful and thoughtful. As Ava watched her, a sinister thought began to stir. A smirk formed on her face, revealing the cold malice hidden behind her refined exterior. "Why not bring this country girl to my birthday party?" she thought, relishing the idea. Making her the evening's laughingstock would surely amuse her elite friends. Ava's birthday celebrations were highly anticipated, a showcase of wealth and influence, and this year she wanted to add a twist, a cruel trick that would make her stand out even more. Leaving her wine glass on the polished vanity, Ava made her way outside, where the blazing heat reminded her why she preferred the coolness of air conditioning. Approaching Hannah, she watched as the maid wiped her brow with a handkerchief, a simple gesture that seemed almost foreign in this world of privilege. "Good afternoon, Miss Ava." Hannah greeted her with a warm smile, one that made Ava uncomfortable. How could someone smile so genuinely with so little? "Hannah, my dear." Ava began with a practiced charm perfected over years. "I've been observing your work, and I must say I'm quite impressed." A look of pride crossed Hannah's face, her eyes brightening. The simple-minded are so easy to sway, Ava thought to herself. "Thank you, Miss Ava." "I do my best," Hannah responded, her pride evident. Ava nodded approvingly. "That's why, Hannah. I'd like to give you something special, a reward for all your hard work." Hannah blinked, clearly taken aback, having only ever received her weekly pay and perhaps a modest holiday bonus. "A reward, miss?" she asked, her voice filled with genuine surprise. "Yes," Ava continued, relishing every word. "Every year, I host a grand birthday party. This year, I'd like you to join me." Hannah's face reflected a mixture of shock and disbelief. "Me? At a party?" she stammered. "But miss, I wouldn't know how to behave." Ava held back a laugh. This was precisely the reaction she wanted. "Don't worry, Hannah. You'll be my guest of honor. Think of it as a chance to see how the other half lives." With a smirk, she added, "Besides, I'm sure everyone will be thrilled to meet the person who cares for me in my home." Hannah glanced at her calloused hands, stained from gardening, then down at her work clothes, worn and marked by dust and soil. "You're too kind, Miss Ava, but I have nothing suitable to wear to such an event." "Leave that to me," Ava replied with a dismissive wave. "I'll ensure you have something appropriate. So, what do you say? Will you join me?" A brief hesitation flickered in Hannah's eyes, as though something felt off about this sudden generosity. But the thrill of experiencing something beyond her ordinary life was too enticing to resist. "It would be an honor, Miss Ava," she finally answered, a warm smile lighting up her face. "Thank you for thinking of me." "The pleasure is all mine, Hannah," Ava responded, placing a hand on her shoulder to seal the deal. "The party is this Saturday, and I'll make sure you have everything you need." As she walked away, leaving Hannah suspended between excitement and unease, Ava finally allowed the laughter she'd been holding in to escape. The game had begun, and she could already taste the victory. In the cool sanctuary of her mansion, Ava headed straight to her private bar, eager for another drink to toast the beginning of her scheme. As she poured another glass of wine, her mind raced, envisioning every humiliating detail she had in store for Hannah. Picking up her phone, she dialed a number. After a few rings, a familiar voice answered. "Grace," Ava said, skipping any formality. "I need you to do something for me. Find a dress for my maid. Make it stand out and make sure it's as inappropriate as possible. Make it far too big, even." There was a slight pause on the other end, as if Grace, her personal assistant, was struggling to process the odd request. "Certainly, Miss Ava," Grace finally replied. "Any specific color or style?" Ava smirked. "Surprise me, Grace. Just ensure it's something that will turn heads for all the wrong reasons." She hung up without waiting for a response. Grace would understand, she always did, which was why she was so valuable to Ava, capable of fulfilling even the strangest requests without a single question. With her plan now well in motion, Ava let herself savor the thought of what was to come. She could see it vividly, Hannah stepping into the party, ill at ease and conspicuously out of place, clad in an absurdly inappropriate outfit that would make her the evening's unfortunate spectacle. Ava could almost hear the murmured whispers, the barely stifled chuckles, and the amused glances passed over delicate champagne flutes. And there she would be, Ava, the mastermind of this carefully orchestrated spectacle. She'd be the name on everyone's lips for weeks, perhaps even months. Remember when Ava brought her maid to the party? They'd say, admiring her audacity and her almost theatrical cruelty. But to Ava, this wasn't just a joke, it was a message. It was a declaration of her power and wit, reminding everyone that she was no mere heiress to a fortune. She was someone who could manipulate, create, and command a scene whenever she pleased. As Ava sipped her wine, she reflected on the road that had led her here. Born into a world of immense privilege, her parents had paved their way to the top through calculated ambition and an unyielding drive that left no room for moral boundaries. Each step in their journey to power was marked by choices that others might call ruthless, but to Ava, they were simply necessary. From an early age, she had learned that success demanded not only strength but a willingness to act without remorse. She remembered the stories her father had shared, like his first major triumph, at just 26, when he used his technical skills to steal an idea from a hopeful startup, presenting it as his own and securing influential investors. The original creator, a talented yet trusting young man, had no means to prove the theft. He ended up working in a modest electronics shop, his dreams shattered. Then there was the family business her father took over, a small but respected company that had thrived for generations. Without hesitation, he dismantled it piece by piece, selling off assets and leaving loyal workers out in the cold. The founder, a man who had built the company from nothing, reportedly suffered a fatal heart attack after hearing the news. With each victory, each million accumulated, her father's legacy of unrestrained ambition grew, solidifying Ava's belief that success meant leaving empathy behind. And now, with more wealth than she could ever need, Ava found herself numb to the extravagance surrounding her. The fine clothing, the exotic trips, they had all lost their allure, their taste dulled by familiarity. Yet something in Hannah's unassuming beauty irked her deeply. Ava craved this moment of callous indulgence, a grand spectacle at the expense of someone so kind and sincere. She yearned to remind herself, and everyone around her, that she still had the power to shake things up, to create chaos, simply because she could.
As these thoughts danced in her mind, Ava drifted to the window, where the evening sun was setting in hues of amber and rose. In the garden below, Hannah moved gracefully, blissfully unaware of the humiliation Ava had in store for her. For a fleeting second, Ava felt a hint of doubt. Was any of this necessary? What satisfaction would she truly gain from embarrassing someone so kind and diligent?
But the doubt passed as quickly as it came. I can't stand those who are more beautiful than I am, Ava thought with a steely resolve. Over the following days, the preparations reached a fevered pitch. Grace, her assistant known for her efficiency, had found just the right outfit, a garish, oversized green dress with an outrageously puffed skirt. It looked like something from an amateur theater production, completely at odds with the elegance of the gathering it was intended for. When Grace presented the dress to Ava, she burst out laughing in approval. "Perfect," she said, inspecting the monstrosity with gleeful satisfaction. "This is exactly what I wanted." The night of the party finally arrived, casting an air of anticipation over the city. The hotel, perched high on the cliffs with sweeping ocean views, had been transformed into a paradise of refinement and exclusivity. The entrance gleamed with grand floral arrangements, and a crimson carpet stretched on endlessly, flanked by security personnel standing as still as statues. Luxury cars glided to a halt at the entrance, each one more lavish than the last, as friends of Ava's family and children of influential executives arrived in a steady stream. Inside her sleek Rolls-Royce, Ava adjusted the bow on her dress, a satisfied smile lingering on her lips. Next to her, Hannah sat in uncomfortable silence, visibly ill at ease in the gaudy green dress that Grace had chosen. "Remember, Hannah," Ava murmured with mock sweetness, "Tonight you're my guest of honor. Just smile and nod, even if you don't understand what's going on." With her hands clenched nervously on her lap, Hannah nodded. "Thank you, Miss Ava. I promise I won't disappoint you." Ava fought back a smirk. Hannah had no idea that her only role tonight was to be the punchline of the evening. As the car pulled up to the entrance, a valet promptly opened the door. Ava stepped out first, greeting the flashing cameras with practiced poise. Then, with a flourish, she extended her hand to help Hannah out of the car. The moment Hannah emerged, exactly as Ava had imagined, a brief pause fell over the crowd, as though the photographers couldn't quite believe what they were seeing. But then, with renewed fervor, the cameras flashed even faster, capturing the scene Ava had so carefully designed. Blinded by the intense camera flashes and clearly overwhelmed, Hannah stumbled slightly as she stepped out of the car. Ava gripped her hand, a gesture that might have seemed friendly to onlookers but was meant to keep Hannah fully exposed to the cameras. "Miss Ava, who's your guest tonight?" one reporter called out. Ava smiled, savoring the moment. "This is Hannah, my maid. I thought it might be fun to bring someone who truly understands how to make things grow. Don't you all agree?" Polite chuckles and stifled laughter rippled through the crowd. Hannah, unable to grasp the true meaning behind Ava's words, smiled awkwardly for the cameras, unaware of the mockery. As they made their way down the red carpet, Ava could feel the curious eyes and amused glances trailing them. The elite, the socialites, and the well-connected all looked on with a blend of amusement and confusion, entertained by this peculiar choice of Ava's. Inside the hotel's grand lobby, the contrast between Hannah's simple world and the event's lavishness became almost overwhelming. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm, golden glow over guests who sipped on champagne and exchanged idle chatter. The attendees wore designer gowns worth more than Hannah's entire home, while the heirs and heiresses flaunted their wealth with luxurious watches and high-end cars. Hannah stopped, visibly struck by the extravagance. "Miss Ava," she whispered, "I don't think I belong here." Ava forced back a triumphant smile. "Nonsense, Hannah. You're my guest. Let me introduce you to some friends." With a guiding hand on Hannah's back, Ava steered her toward a table where her parents sat with a group of influential executives. Near the bar, she noticed Franklin, CEO of an emerging tech company, and Frank, a venture capitalist known for his biting wit. "Ava," Franklin called out, lifting his glass in a casual toast, "we thought you were going to miss out on all the excitement." "Never," Ava replied smoothly, then gestured to Hannah. "Let me introduce my guest for the evening. This is Hannah, my maid." An uncomfortable silence followed. "Your maid?" Franklin echoed, his tone both incredulous and amused. "Yes," Ava replied, relishing each second. "I thought it might be refreshing to bring someone truly unique, if you understand my meaning." The forced, uneasy laughter that followed filled the air, as Hannah, sensing that she was the butt of a joke she couldn't fully grasp, managed a nervous smile. "So, Hannah," Franklin chimed in, playing along with Ava's charade, "what do you think of colonizing Mars?" Hannah blinked, caught off guard. I'm not sure, sir, but I guess if they're going to Mars, they'll need good maids, right?" Her innocent response drew another round of laughter, louder this time, though no less cutting. As the evening continued, Ava paraded Hannah from one group to another, introducing her to as many people as she could. With each introduction, the awkwardness grew. Ava reveled in every uncomfortable moment, using the opportunity to emphasize Hannah's unfamiliarity with technology, finance, and the refined interests of the guests. At one point, they encountered Esteban, who looked at Hannah with an amused curiosity. "So, Hannah," Esteban asked, his smile lacking warmth, "what are your thoughts on AI and its future in household services?" Hannah, perspiring slightly under the lights and unwanted attention, stammered, "Well, sir, I guess if AI can cook rice and serve it without spilling, that'd be quite something." Her answer sparked laughter among those around her. Esteban, while entertained, seemed to momentarily consider her comment before nodding. "Not a bad thought. Maybe we should explore automating cooking and serving on Mars." Ava, though amused, felt a fleeting irritation. Even if sarcastic, any acknowledgement of Hannah's words wasn't part of her plan. As the night wore on and champagne flowed freely, the jokes about Hannah grew bolder, the laughter louder and less restrained. Ava watched with satisfaction as her plot unfolded. She could see Hannah shrinking under the weight of judgmental looks and whispered remarks. At one point, Hannah excused herself to use the restroom. Ava observed her, noticing the slump in her shoulders, the hesitancy in her step. For a brief moment, a glimmer of doubt surfaced in Ava's mind. Had she gone too far? Before she could dwell on it, a group of friends surrounded her, eager for conversation. Ava was quickly pulled back into the party, momentarily forgetting about Hannah's whereabouts. Meanwhile, in the hotel's opulent restroom, Hannah stood in front of a mirror, looking at her own reflection. She saw the image of a woman defeated. The bright lights seemed to magnify every tear, every wrinkle, every stain on her ill-fitting dress. For the first time that night, she found herself alone, away from Ava's controlling presence and the snide looks of the guests. She splashed water on her face, trying to pull herself together. What am I doing here? She wondered. Each glance, each giggle reminded her that she was an outsider, an unwanted guest, a walking joke. The thought of leaving crossed her mind, but she was bound by a sense of duty. She had given her word to Ava that she would stay, and Hannah was nothing if not true to her word. With a deep, steadying breath, she straightened her posture, adjusted her ill-fitting dress as best as she could, and prepared to return to the party with whatever dignity she had left. While Hannah wrestled with the insecurities swirling within her, Ava basked in her element, surrounded by the influential, admired friends she idolized. She held the room's attention with graceful authority, each word, each movement deliberately crafted for maximum effect. Ava? A voice interrupted from behind. It was Franklin, her father's biggest business rival, witty, magnetic, and perhaps most irksome of all, beloved by those who worked with him. I must say, your choice of companion tonight is rather unconventional. Franklin, Ava responded with a polite smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Always a pleasure. I do enjoy keeping people on their toes. Franklin studied her, his gaze difficult to read. Is that what you're doing? Because from where I stand, it looks like you're humiliating someone who has no idea why she's even here. Ava's smile faltered. Oh, don't be so dramatic, Franklin. I'm merely giving Hannah a glimpse into a world she'd never experience otherwise. Isn't that generous? Generous, Franklin echoed, his tone thick with skepticism. Is that what you call it? Because to me, it borders on needless cruelty. Before Ava could respond, a wave of murmurs spread across the room as all eyes turned to the entrance. A stately figure had entered. Albert, the legendary investor and philanthropist known for his sharp mind and enormous heart. Ava's confidence wavered. Albert was a man revered even by the most powerful, his reputation in philanthropy and business impeccable. Franklin greeted Albert warmly, launching into an enthusiastic explanation of his latest venture with solar technology systems. Ava, sensing her spotlight slipping, prepared to assert herself when she caught Albert's gaze shifting to her. And you must be Ava, Albert said, extending his hand. I've heard quite a bit about you. Ava shook his hand, mustering every ounce of composure. Mr. Albert, it's an honor. I trust everything you've heard is favorable? Albert smiled, his gaze piercing. Oh, I've heard all sorts of things. You're certainly a prominent figure, Ava. I must say your choice of company tonight is memorable. At that moment, Hannah returned from the restroom, her face freshly washed, her expression carrying an unusual resolve, as if she had arrived at a decision. The moment Ava had been eagerly awaiting was finally upon her. With Albert watching closely and the crowd's attention fixed on them, Ava readied herself for the ultimate reveal of her elaborate ruse. Mr. Albert, Ava began, barely concealing her malice. Allow me to present my honored guest for the evening. This is Hannah, my maid. The silence that followed was profound. Even the background music seemed to recede as the room held its breath. Albert looked Hannah over, his expression unreadable. Standing tall despite her ill-fitting dress, Hannah met the gaze of the renowned investor and the curious, judgmental eyes of the elite. Her own gaze was a blend of courage and uncertainty. And then something Ava never anticipated occurred. Albert's lips curled into a warm, genuine smile, the last reaction Ava had expected. Hannah, he said, extending his hand, it is a true honor to meet you. Confusion flashed across Ava's face. What did he mean by that? Hannah, equally astonished, reached out to shake Albert's hand, her voice finding strength she hadn't felt all evening. The honor is mine, Mr. Albert. Then, as if on cue, the guests began to rise one by one until the entire room was standing. Applause swelled, softly at first, then growing into a resounding ovation. Hannah looked around, dazed, unable to grasp what was happening. It's her, someone exclaimed. The unknown angel? I can't believe it. She's a legend. Ava turned to Hannah, horror and disbelief etched across her face. What are they talking about? she stammered. But Hannah's focus was on Albert, who gave her a subtle nod, as if granting her permission to reveal her truth. Hannah drew a deep breath and, for the first time that evening, stood with absolute poise. "Yes," she began, her voice steady and unwavering. "I am the unknown angel." The revelation struck the crowd like a bolt of lightning. Ava felt the ground tilt beneath her. The unknown angel, the enigmatic benefactor who had secretly donated millions to various charities over the years, capturing the nation's admiration. Her identity had long been a mystery, speculated upon in every social circle. But you're a maid," Ava stammered, grappling to reconcile Hannah's humble appearance with the legend of the unknown angel. Hannah smiled, a smile layered with years of quiet sacrifice and deep satisfaction. "Yes, I am a maid, and I'm proud of it," she replied calmly. Albert stepped forward, taking the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "a few years ago, Hannah was recognized as one of the nation's brightest young entrepreneurs, even ranked among the top 5. But for reasons of her own, she chose to walk away from that life, embracing simplicity and dedicating herself to meaningful work." He turned to her, his hand resting supportively on her shoulder. "It has been my privilege to work with Hannah on numerous charitable endeavors. Her humility and generosity are unmatched." Ava's world spun. Her carefully crafted plan, her attempt at humiliation, had crumbled in an instant. Worse yet, she had unwittingly made herself the villain in a story that would surely spread. Guests now flocked to Hannah, eager to meet the famed unknown angel. Executives, celebrities, and philanthropists who had looked down on her earlier now vied for her attention. Miss Olivia, a celebrated actress, approached her, saying, "Your donation saved the arts North Florida in my hometown." "I can't thank you enough, Hannah," a prominent tech entrepreneur added. "The support you provided for clean energy research has been transformative. It's truly an honor to finally meet you." As the compliments and expressions of gratitude flowed, Ava found herself retreating, shrinking from the spotlight she had once craved. Her thoughts raced. How could she have been so blind, so mistaken? Hannah, however, accepted the accolades with grace and humility. "The true privilege lies in the ability to help others," she repeated softly. "Each of us has the power to make a difference, regardless of our station in life." Eventually, Hannah turned and made her way toward Ava, who had withdrawn to a shadowed corner of the room. With steady steps, she approached the woman who had tried to belittle her, now visibly diminished in the wake of the revelation. "Ava," Hannah said gently yet firmly, "I imagine you're wondering why I accepted your invitation tonight, even knowing your intentions." Ava, unable to meet her gaze, stared at the floor. I don't understand. Why continue working as a maid if you have so much money? Why tolerate all of this?" She gestured vaguely around them, struggling to comprehend. Hannah's smile was filled with empathy and a touch of sadness. "Because, Ava, there is dignity in honest work, whatever form it takes. Caring for you, tending to your home, and witnessing things grow each day, it reminds me of what truly matters. Sometimes the most valuable lessons come from the most unlikely places." Ava felt something inside her begin to fracture. Her entire life, her parents had taught her that wealth and influence were all that truly mattered. And now, standing before her was Hannah, a woman with far more fortune than Ava could ever fathom, who had chosen to live simply, quietly devoted to helping others. I'm sorry," Ava stammered, the words heavy and hard to say. "I didn't mean to, I just—" Hannah placed a gentle hand on Ava's shoulder, an understanding gesture that made Ava feel unworthy. "I know, Ava. And while I can't excuse your actions tonight, I do believe there's a lesson here for all of us." Raising her voice so everyone could hear, she continued, "Tonight, let's remember not to judge others by appearances or professions. True wealth isn't measured in dollars, but by the positive impact we make in others' lives." A ripple of agreement murmured through the crowd. Ava could see the once admiring gazes of those around her had shifted, some filled with pity, others with disapproval. Her status had fallen, and the descent felt profound. Albert stepped forward, his presence as commanding as ever. "Ava," he said, his tone blending disappointment with a glimmer of hope, "you made a serious mistake tonight. But as Hannah reminded us, there's always a chance for growth and redemption." Ava nodded, feeling smaller and more humbled than she'd ever felt. "We cannot undo the past," Albert continued, "but we can plant seeds for a better future. And you don't have to do it alone. There's a community here ready to support you and work with your family on efforts that truly matter." Ava looked up at him, a new sense of humility and hope softening her expression. I want that," she said softly, to learn, to help, to approach things differently. Hannah's face brightened with a smile. How about we start tomorrow morning at your place, just as I suggested? There's something grounding about the act of cleaning, of physically witnessing your efforts. I'd like that, Hannah, Ava replied. I have so much to learn from you and from others. As they spoke, Hannah stepped onto the balcony, her presence once overlooked, now radiating quiet authority. Ladies and gentlemen, she said with a warm smile. I hope I'm not intruding. Not at all, Franklin replied, making space for her to join them. Ava, still struggling with her shame, could barely bring herself to meet Hannah's gaze. Hannah, I don't know what to say, Ava murmured. Hannah placed her hand on Ava's shoulder again, offering that same reassuring gesture. Sometimes, Ava, there's no need for words. What truly matters is how we choose to move forward. The group stood in thoughtful silence for a moment, gazing out at the starry sky. As the gala wound down, guests left with a fresh perspective the story of the unknown angel, the wealthy woman who had served quietly, helping others without recognition, would spread like wildfire in the days to come, inspiring many to rethink their values and the real essence of success. Ava, who had set out to host her birthday party as a way to humiliate her maid, left with a newfound lesson in humility and purpose. That night she sat down with her parents and spoke with them for hours. Filled with remorse for the values they had instilled in her, her parents expressed their regret. Together, they resolved to shift their focus to contribute to the community and prioritize meaningful impact over personal gain. The next morning, as promised, Ava arrived ready to work alongside Hannah. As they cleaned together, Ava realized that they were doing more than just tidying a house. They were renewing their lives, embracing transformation. Along with that came a promise of change that would ripple through the entire community. In the weeks that followed the night of the gala, Ava found herself drawn to Hannah in ways she hadn't expected. Gone was the haughty amusement she had once felt in Hannah's presence. Now she felt only gratitude and admiration for her humility and quiet strength. They worked side by side each day, tending to the tasks around the mansion. But Ava noticed something remarkable happening within herself. She was growing calmer, more thoughtful, her once restless mind finding peace in the simplest of routines. One day, as they dusted the grand parlor together, Ava paused, looking over at Hannah with a smile. You know, I can hardly believe I've spent all these years chasing meaningless luxuries when the simplest things bring so much joy. Hannah looked up, surprised but pleased. It's a realization many never come to, Ava. I'm glad you're finding fulfillment in a different way. Over time, their conversations deepened, and Ava began to feel a sisterly affection toward Hannah. She wanted to do more for her than simply apologize. She wanted to see her truly happy, living a life filled with the respect and kindness she so deeply deserved. Hannah, Ava began one afternoon as they sipped tea in the garden. I want to help you with something meaningful. I feel like I owe you, and I want to make amends for everything. Hannah gave her a gentle smile. Ava, your friendship has been more than enough. You've grown in ways I never imagined possible. That's a gift in itself. Ava shook her head, determined. But I want to help you in a way that lasts, something that brings you joy. She paused, choosing her words carefully. Have you ever thought about love? About finding someone who sees you for the incredible person you are? Hannah laughed softly, a touch of sadness in her eyes. Oh, Ava, my life has been far from glamorous. I haven't given love much thought, honestly. I've always been so focused on simpler things. Ava reached across the table, placing a hand on Hannah's. I want to help you find someone who treasures you. You deserve that, Hannah. You deserve to be loved by someone who values your heart and soul. Hannah's expression softened, her eyes glistening. I don't know what to say. That's such a beautiful thought. And so, Ava set out on a new mission. She began introducing Hannah to a few trusted friends, men she knew to be kind, honorable, and genuinely interested in Hannah's unique outlook on life. Ava's intentions were purely genuine. She wanted Hannah to have the kind of love that money could never buy. Several months later, Ava introduced Hannah to Daniel, a quiet, kind-hearted man who worked as a historian and shared Hannah's love for the simple things in life. From the moment they met, there was a quiet understanding between them. After an evening spent discussing history and family with him, Hannah turned to Ava with a look of wonder. Ava, I've never met anyone like Daniel. He's gentle, respectful, and he listens, really listens. Ava smiled, watching the shy spark of excitement in Hannah's eyes. He sees what I see in you, Hannah. He's the kind of man who values a pure heart. In the months that followed, Hannah and Daniel grew close, bonding over shared values and a profound respect for one another's lives. They took long walks through the gardens and spent quiet afternoons reading in the sun. Ava often joined them, feeling a warmth and happiness bloom within her heart, knowing she'd had a hand in bringing them together. One evening, Daniel pulled Ava aside. "Miss Ava, I have something to ask you." She looked at him, sensing the seriousness in his tone. "Of course, Daniel. What is it?" He took a deep breath, his eyes filled with sincerity. "I love Hannah deeply, and I'd like to ask for her hand in marriage, but I want your blessing. You've been her protector, her friend, and in many ways you're like family to her." Ava's eyes filled with tears and she nodded. "You have my blessing, Daniel. Nothing would bring me more happiness than seeing her with someone who treasures her as you do." With Ava's encouragement, Daniel proposed to Hannah under the old oak tree in the garden, with the stars shining brightly above them. Hannah accepted with joy, her heart overflowing with love and gratitude. On the day of their wedding, Ava stood by Hannah's side as her maid of honor. She watched with pride as her friend exchanged vows with the man who cherished her. She knew this was just the beginning of a beautiful new chapter in Hannah's life. As they celebrated in the candlelit ballroom, Ava found herself lost in reflection. She realized how much she had changed, how much her friendship with Hannah had reshaped her view of the world. She no longer craved the hollow admiration of strangers or the fleeting thrill of luxury. Instead, she found joy in the richness of real relationships, in the beauty of kindness and loyalty. Later that evening, Ava and Hannah found a quiet moment together. "Hannah," Ava began, her voice soft, "you've given me so much more than I ever gave you. You showed me what it means to live with heart, to live meaningfully." Hannah took her hand, her smile radiant. "Ava, you've become the best friend I never expected to have. Thank you for everything." They embraced, feeling the depth of a bond that had grown through forgiveness, understanding, and a shared desire for something beyond wealth and status. In the months and years that followed, Ava remained a close part of Hannah and Daniel's lives. She became godmother to their first child and devoted herself to meaningful causes alongside them, working tirelessly to improve the lives of others. Her transformation was genuine, and her heart, once hardened by privilege, was softened by the gift of friendship and the joy of giving. Ava knew that her life would never be the same, and for the first time she was deeply, profoundly grateful for that. The story of the wealthy heiress and her maid would become a legend, a reminder that true wealth is not measured in dollars, but in the positive impact we can have on the lives of others. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing heartwarming stories every day. We are grateful for your support. See you soon.